Welcome to the official podcast of the National Pickleball League, where we go inside the NPL.
Hi, my name is Michael Chen. I will be one of the hosts for this podcast. And my co-host today will be Jen Gallwas, David George, and Rick Witsken. Welcome. Welcome, the three of you. Thank you for co-hosting this with me. I'm excited about our first podcast ever about the National Pickleball League. Let me turn it over to you first, Jen, and just introduce yourself. Jen, who was a player in the National Pickleball League last year. Welcome, Jen.
Hi, thank you, Michael. Thank you for having me. I'm Jennifer Gallwas. I live in Chicago. What brought me to pickleball was a girls' trip 2 years ago. I played competitive tennis. I played tennis in college and resisted for years and tried it and loved it immediately. And spring break, we were in Naples and went to that facility, borrowed a paddle from Bob Stroman, and I stopped playing tennis, and I've been playing pickleball ever since. And I just love it. I was never so happy to turn 50 because it was the same year that I found out about this combine and this league that was for for people over 50 to play and compete in pickleball. So
That's great.
So excited.
And your nickname we'll go into later is called Bone Crusher, Jen. So we'll talk about why I call Bone Crusher. But
Okay.
David, welcome. David, please introduce yourself as well.
Thanks, Michael. Super excited to be a part of this. I'm David George, also known as the Professor. I'm a professor here in town in South Bend at the University of Notre Dame and Ivy Tech College. I've been playing pickleball about 2.5 years. I had a decent tennis background, but nothing compared to these two. I played small college tennis, and then I taught tennis and played tennis for a while. And then about 2 years ago, I met Jen on a blind pickleball day in a tournament in Chicago. And then about a month later, I went to Rick's hosted APP tournament that he had in Indianapolis, right? And then it was kind of fortuitous that I met Rick and John Sperling. And then those are like the first two people I met in pickleball. And then a little bit later, Rick starts this league that I love. And then I played with John Sperling all year.
Rick, Michael, and Beth. Let's get it correct, David.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, David.
They couldn't even give you like 10 seconds of glory before they had to say,
No.
and also.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I would love to introduce the co-host, Rick Witsken, but also, as we said, is a co-partner of mine and Beth Bellamy. Welcome, Rick.
Thank you, Michael. I am so excited to start this podcast with the three of you. You guys are great personalities. You're great for the game. And boy, don't we have a lot of goodies to come and nurture our audience with all kinds of details that they're thirsty for. So yes, I'm a co-founder of the National Pickleball League. I am also a senior pro pickleball player. I run camps. Since we all have nicknames, you should get very aware that I'm Witsken. And there's a very good story behind that. I won't share it yet. It's not quite as impressive as the Hammer, but I do like my story. I'm proud of the National Pickleball League, and I can't wait to express so many opinions because I do have opinions on this show.
Yes, you do. Well, thank you, Rick, and look forward to your opinions. And as I said, my name is Michael Chen, but people call me Hammer Mike on the pickleball court. And so I'm glad to be here with David, Rick, and Jen. And my background, unlike theirs, isn't really from tennis. My background is in business, and I spent 30 years in the corporate world, but decided that I want to take on these tennis pros and play with them. And I met Rick one day at a tournament, and that's how the National Pickleball League came together with me, Rick, and Beth in December of 2022. The National Pickleball League, the only professional pickleball league for champion pros by champion pros, and that means age 50 plus. So let's get right into it. 2023 was our first season last season. It seemed like a long time ago, but wow, we just started last season with 6 teams. A team from Naples, Florida, a team from Boca, Florida, a team from Indianapolis, Indiana, where Rick is from, a team from Denver, Colorado, a team from Oklahoma City, a team from Austin, Texas. Those are the 6 teams, and we'll expand to more teams this year. But I would love to get your experience. Let's start with David, with your experience from last year. I mean, you were one of the first ones to sign up for the draft, and you were one of the first ones to get drafted really early, actually. I would say Rick and I were shocked you were drafted that early by Naples, but you were drafted really early. And so tell me about your experience about that high expectation.
Listen, you interrupted me. All right. Really? Like, you could have just said you were drafted early. You didn't have to say you were shocked at how early you were drafted. I mean, come on. I expect that from Rick, but you too, Michael, come on.
Well, so did you live up to your expectations last year, being drafted early by Bob Stroman?
I like to think so. I was the second guy drafted on my team, and I kind of played in the second guy spot behind the previously mentioned John Sperling most of the year. You know, I think we were around 50%. I think we dipped to like 40, 45%, which is not bad for a top line doubles team playing against all these top players. And then with KK007 Kim Kessner, I think we won more like 2/3 of our matches in that 1B spot. So I think we did okay. I mean, like as far as living up to expectations.
Well, that's good. Jen, you were his teammate, by the way, right? Do you think he lived up to his expectation as being one of the top players on the Naples team?
Oh my goodness. Well, yeah, I have to be honest. I think he exceeded it. Honestly.
Wow.
I mean, that first weekend we came in, unfortunately, we did not have John Sperling that weekend. He unfortunately lost his mother and couldn't make it. And it's the very first weekend. We don't know what to expect. We're all new. I mean, I only knew Dave on my team. I knew other players from other teams, but so he's right in that number one spot. The people don't know who he is. The girls are fighting over him. You know, it was just, and he played awesome. Really big wins, you know, because we're relatively new. And, you know, Dave, I thought he handled himself amazing. He played great. And so he had a great kickoff weekend.
I think I told Jen something. Go ahead, Mark.
I just was saying that, David, you know, you exceeded my expectation as an ambassador for the league. Not only were you a great player, but I could tell your leadership of the team was second to none. And while there might be a slight imagination of people thinking Indiana people aren't very smart, you impressed me. Right? You and I, two pickleball people, Indiana, we have brains. Wow. You impressed me. Your leadership was awesome. And you played great at the line one spot.
Well, it looks like you did exceed expectations then. So kudos, David. You got endorsed by Rick Witsken, the number one player in the National Pickleball League. So speaking of which, Rick, before we talk more about the founding of the National Pickleball League, you played for Indy. And Indy became the world champs, right, of the National Pickleball League last year. How'd you feel about that? What was your feelings when you guys won the championship in 2023, last year?
Because this is a truthful, honest conversation. I was secretly hoping we wouldn't win the championship when this first started, because a lot of times there is projections that the co-founders and just images of, oh, it's stacked, whatnot. I was happy to know that Austin played an amazing regular season and they were the decisive champs. And OKC had an incredible regular season and they were just in second. If they hadn't lost that, they could have been the champs. So those two teams totally deserve the regular season. The fact that the Indy Drivers were the third seed going into the championship, I will say that I did help draft that team, and I did think we did a really nice job of having incredible depth with Indy. So when we went to 4 pods going into the championship weekend, I did feel like we had a great chance, if all of our players played to their level, of winning that championship. And, you know, look, we had to play your team, Michael, first round, Boca Raton, and you guys had a great championship as well. So we took nobody for granted, but I did feel like with the depth of the Indy Drivers, I felt like we had just good chances as anybody.
I hate to agree with Rick right off the bat, but like the depth is the key. And that's really one of the things that makes the NPL so great, because every match is worth a point. All right. Yeah, so he wins in an amazing match with Rich Lopez and they get 1 point. Right. It comes down to those third and fourth pods that are just as important. And that's really what makes the league so exciting.
Yeah, no, like you said, Austin was 14-6 in the regular season. So it was OKC. They were 14-6, and you guys were 13-7. You were third seed, but you came from third seed to win. My team, Boca Raton, actually was in sixth place, last place in the regular season, but came and upset a couple of teams, including Naples.
Thanks. I appreciate it. I knew where you were going with that story.
To come in third, so you never know what happens. But we were excited as well. It was a very exciting season. So, Jen, tell me a little bit about your reflections on not only team, but just playing in the NPL, and what you love about the NPL and what did you not like about the NPL in the first year, last year?
Oh my goodness. It was, I think, well, I didn't know what to expect, but I love to compete. I run marathons. I play competitive tennis all through college. And then I played, USTA high level tennis even until 2 years ago. And so I just love it. And then when I found out about this, I was so excited to, go to the combine and then hopefully be drafted. I was at the draft party and fortunate enough to be, drafted to Naples. So, didn't know what to expect. And it was so much better than just going to a regular tournament. You were there all weekend. The people, the quality of people, my teammates, other teammates, it was just, you're all there for 3 days. And I love playing pickle and I love people. And it felt like being back in college. It was just such a fun weekend, such a fun atmosphere. I talked about it all the time. I'd come home like, oh, it was a fun weekend. We'd have text chains with our teammates. We almost couldn't wait to get back. Like I couldn't wait for oh, good, the next one's only 3 weeks away. We wanted to, of course, we're all competitors. We come from, a lot of people are from high level sports, but it was so much fun. I loved every part of it. There's nothing, negative I could even think of other than my injury right before we started. But other than that, owners, all the owners and all the teammates. I have Natalie Shaw's one of my friends from home, and she was on Indy. So even if they weren't on your team, you got to hang out with each other, have lunch, and it was just so much fun. It was the most fun I've had in a long time. Something so new.
A shout out to all the owners, right? And Bob Stroman was the owner of your team, was a great owner. We had Carl Foster and Rick Redemar, who were the owners of Boca Raton, Scott Trevathan and Shona Kerr and Steve Unger leading the Austin team, Carol Rolls for OKC, Phil Cohen for Indy, and then we also had Chris Montgomery and Mario Boshi for Denver. We're just, we should give a hand to all our owners because they did a great job last year.
They did an amazing job. And I also wanted to say, the combine, and to me, Michael, when you started asking in 2023 was what really set this whole thing on fire. And, I really connected with Jen and David there, but just the spiritual passion that you felt from these 80 players that are playing at the Chicken and Pickle OKC. Thank you, Chicken and Pickle, for being our partner. It was very clear from that event, our first event, the first ever pro sports combine for 15 over athletes. I felt like, holy smokes, this thing's going to take a whole new meaning of its own. And what we had as visions, you and Beth and I, Michael, has kind of come into an insane amount of growth. And boy, now we're going into 2024. We got a lot of exciting things happening.
Well, you know what? For those people that listen to this podcast who might not be pros, right? They want to know what it takes to be a pro. Like, David, you're a professor, so people think you're smart, you're intelligent. And so do you bring this high-level intelligence to the game of pickleball? Like, do you have a high-level strategy that makes you a pro better than some of these other players? Tell me how you became such a good player in pickleball.
Well, since people think I'm smart, and you never said I actually am smart, I noticed that. No, I think everyone brings their own set of skills to the court. Some people have great, racket striking ball ability. Some people bring a little bit more analytical approach. And I think I play like a traditional, classic, logical, sometimes too safe, approach. But that fits my personality, and it's been semi-successful. I don't make a lot of mistakes. I play long points. I try to use my physical fitness to wear some people down. So I kind of use my set of skills. And then
what's your secret weapon? Like, what is the one thing you say that you do better than most other pros in pickleball?
I just have to pick one.
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. Like, what's your edge?
I can't even say it with
everyone
a
has
straight
an
face.
edge. Everyone has an edge. What is your main edge? Like, this is, you think like you're better than other pros in this area?
I think I am a little bit more mentally tough than other people. And I know a lot of people say that. I mean that specifically in I don't get too up after a good play and I don't get too down after a bad play. It fits with my life approach. I know Jen's already rolling her eyes because she knows I'm going to mention, classical Stoic philosophy, but that's what I study. And that was what my dissertation was in. And that's my approach to life. I don't get too up. I don't get too down. I kind of go with the flow. I also recognize that there are things beyond my control. So if someone hits a let cord, you won't see me throwing my racket, right? There's nothing I could do. There's no reason for me to get upset about that.
That's a secret tip.
So I think that's my tip.
Stay. Yeah. That's great. That's a great tip. And Jen, I call you Bone Crusher. Partners. Yeah. And I call you Jen Bone Crusher. Is that your secret weapon, that you hit the ball so hard? You hit about like 80 miles an hour. Like, I'm afraid to be on the court with you sometimes. I played against you and you were like nailing me left and right. Like, is that your secret weapon? Like,
no, I don't want to hit anybody.
What's your tip?
Two things. I will say, in college tennis, I was a baseliner. I love Agassi. I grew up watching, like, I was a baseliner. I just love big ground strokes, big serve. So that's how I came from tennis. I wasn't a serve and volleyer. I love ground strokes. And then, I found pickleball when I had 3 teenagers. So, you go out there and hit the ball, and it was like the best kind of therapy and outlet ever. But yeah, I did start pickleball 2 years ago, playing tennis on the pickleball court. I have evolved. I actually do dink and have a soft game. Right, David? Yeah. But yeah, I like to fit. I think that sometimes he was like last year, I'd try to serve really hard. Like, just, you're working so hard to serve to get a short return, and he'd like reset. And I'm like, really, if you when there's a short return, stay on offense, put it away. So I have gotten, I'm trying to play smarter and safer and things like that, and more consistent. But if you can stay on offense, I think you should stay on offense. You're doing these things to have that advantage. So yeah, I like to play aggressively, I guess you'd say.
So your tip would be, don't be shy about being aggressive when you have the opportunity, right?
Absolutely.
Don't think about you have to dink or you have to do a third shot drop. That when you have a chance to drive the ball, drive the ball.
And, even like, I remember telling Kim Kessner once, I wish I had that backhand of yours. And she's like, well, I wish I had your forehand. Everybody has a secret weapon. And so if it's tight in a game, I can't just I have to go to what I've done since I was 5, with big, topspin forehand or backhand or whatever, slice. So everyone you have to be, like David says it all the time, just to be you, just be you, So it's like, I got to show them. So you just have to kind of go back to your own athleticism. If it's
and yours is nailing people in the.
No, it's not.
I've got bruises. Anyway, going to Rick. Rick, as a number 1 player in the men's, we call it Champions Tour, right? Which is over age 50. We're not really seniors. We're not that old. We're champions. Right? and tell me a little bit about how you became so good. Is it transformation of tennis? Like, what is your coaching advice? You're a coach. You do a lot of clinics. What is your tip that you can give people listening to this podcast today about how you became such a great pro and the number 1 player? What is your secret sauce?
Well, everybody's different. And David and I are really good friends, and we're very different. Because if I stayed in a kind of just normal energy, normal passion, not too high, I'm not going to get the best out of myself. I absolutely have to raise my level based on my mind perceiving that either A, I'm agitated, or B, like, this is so important. And so I probably have a little bit of ADD. And so, really, for me to be successful, whether it's in the league or individual tournaments, I really feed off things. And for instance, there's an owner on the Austin team who I like a lot, but he posted something that wasn't quite embracing me in my play, but he was embracing a couple other players. I've literally screenshot that post, and I've looked at that post every day since the day that he posted it. And I've had my best singles results because of that post. And I'll remember that forever. Yeah. So hearing things like that, I know, Indy, we kind of didn't get off to a great start. We were steep, but, I could hear some chatter. I even heard a referee say something that she thought that another team was going to beat us in the team breaker. Ooh, boy, did that thought go off in my head again and again and again. When I'm on the court, I like to use those passionate things. My number 1 secret sauce is probably my hand speed. And, when you are one of 8 kids like I was growing up in Indiana, you better have quick hands to get food from the table or you're not going to eat. So
how do you train to have quick hands then? Is it like a little bit like boxing, or what's your training technique to have such great hands?
Well, Michael, you remind me of a guy named Mr. Miyagi. Do you remember that guy from the Karate Kid? And I think you and I, Michael, could have a lot of fun seeing who could catch more flies with chopsticks. So I try and get those things wherever I can. And, playing ping pong 1,000 times with your brothers really helped develop that as well. Plus, I've always had a racket in my hand. So, David, we do play with paddles, not rackets, in pickleball. But I started with a racket. And now, the paddle, whether it's from ping pong over to pickleball, I think that's really helped my hand speed.
And you have
Wait, Rick, I just need to take a quick note. So you've had some of your best results ever in singles recently, beat all these top players, including myself. And so I need to know who gave you all this bulletin board motivational material so I can be mad at that person.
Well, you can go to one of our owners, and I outed him at our recent meetings for the NPL, and his name's DK Ajiri, owner of Austin Ignite. And I love DK. We practiced together. I played him 1,000,000 times, and he's getting closer to beating me. Super nice guy. But I thanked him for the bulletin board material.
But
that's
what's so fun, right? He's your friend, you just said, but he
Totally.
fires you up, and that's what's so great about the National Pickleball League, right? That you're playing against your friends, and you want to win more because it's against your friends, right? You really want to beat them, and then have a beer or a drink with them afterwards, right?
Correct. And when we talk about the cast of characters coming in for 2024, who we signed, I can't wait for those characters to come in and be leaders of teams. And the scuttlebutt between these teams are going to be unbelievable.
Well, let's talk about 2024 then, right? We got a huge action-packed schedule coming up this year, starting with 2 combines, and then a draft party, and then 6 events, 5 regular season events with a championship in October. And we're going to have probably 6 more teams. We're going to have 12 teams. We have a lot of players. We're probably going to have about 168 players in the league. But the first thing all starts with the combine. And Rick, I got to give you credit for this. You're the one that thought about having an NPL Combine last year. So why don't you tell us a little about what is an NPL Combine and what's the purpose of it? And are we doing 50-yard dashes? Like, what's the goal, and what was your vision for the combine?
Well, contrary to what people might conjure up 50-year-olds do, the combine is literally you're playing in a pod of 8, and you're one of those 8 players, and you play with rotational partners, and really the cream rises to the top. But, this game is rapidly rising, and we know there's so many diamonds in the rough that we haven't seen play on the individual tournament front. It gives me chills to think about the 120 players we're going to see at Diadem, the 60 men and 60 women that I don't know, to see them evolve like Jen and David did so quickly. Like, that is rewarding because these are relationships nurtured by NPL, the relationships on a personal front. I mean, it's exciting to see all the different strategies and also different talents and strengths. You're talking about tall and short. You're talking about men and women. You're talking about righties and lefties. You're talking about drivers and dinkers. It's so many new people.
So these are not the top players, right? You're saying these are people that are trying to make it to get drafted. The top players aren't coming to the combine. These are people saying, I'm going to go to the combine and showcase myself, so hopefully one of the owners will draft me, correct? That was your vision, right? To bring more people to have a chance to be drafted that may not be the top players, but may evolve to become a top player like David and Jen, right? That is correct. The combine.
And we've got a top 10 pro tennis player, Michael Pernfors, coming to show us what he's got. I cannot wait to watch him.
Yeah, no, those are exciting. So David and Jen, since me and Rick didn't play in the combine last year, but you two did, right? Tell us your experience. Like, if someone is watching that's going to be in the combine in Diadem in early March, or in Grapevine at Chicken and Pickle in middle March, tell them, what was your experience like last year when you were trying out for the combine? David, go ahead.
Oh, okay. The combine turned out pretty well for me. First of all, it was super fun. You just play with a lot of really good players, and you meet a lot of other people. All right. I mean, I didn't know Michael or Beth or Julie. I didn't know the owners, from the combine. So that was really important. And I saw pretty quickly that there was a lot of luck involved kind of in these matchups and combinations. So whether you win or not, whether you won or not. So I thought it was very important to kind of get to know some of the owners, right? So if I couldn't win on my skill, I could get drafted on my charm.
Yeah.
Okay. This was very important. So, not being a jerk.
so
Just
so
kidding.
Unbelievable. All right, Jen, go ahead.
I'm just kidding.
so you're saying it's not just about your one-loss record, right?
It's not.
The owners are drafting you more than your one-loss record. Tell me what the owners are looking for. You think what the owners were looking for in the
Well,
combine?
Bob wouldn't put it like a no asshole rule, but he was looking for people who were fun, who were interesting. You got to spend a lot of time with these people.
Yeah.
Right? You play with the same people over and over. Like we literally hung out like every second we weren't playing, we were with our team off the court. And if you do not like those people, that makes for not such a fun experience. All right. And so I went out of my way to, according to Jen, fool them
No,
that I was a nice guy and a charming guy. And remember talking with Carol's husband, Doug, right? He's kind of a quiet guy too. So I thought I could connect with him. We talked about neuroscience and consciousness and some very interesting things. And then I got to know Bob and Rick and Carl and Phil. So I thought if I didn't win, because I actually didn't think I was going to win after the first day, I wasn't even close to the top, that maybe they would draft me on my winning personality.
That's good. So Jen, do you agree with that? What was your experience like at the combine? Did you feel that you had to win at all costs? Did you feel like it was important not only to win, but to play with sportsmanship, to be a good partner, to get to know the owners? Like, what was your experience with the combine?
Okay. Well, of course, everybody is a competitor. You're trying to win because one thing that we probably left out is if you won, there were 2 spots, you got a draft. You're going to be drafted.
That's right.
So it was like an automatic. So then, because I didn't know, you don't know who's going to get drafted. So I actually missed half of spring break with my family. They were out in Phoenix, to come to this combine. And I remember asking my 17-year-old daughter, like, if you have a chance to do this, because she's a great volleyball player. So she was proud of me and said, go try. But, gosh, of course, sportsmanship. Of course, you want great players, but you get personalities over 2.5 days of, people lose graciously or win graciously and all that kind of thing. I had an awesome pod. I think 5 out of my 8 are in the NPL, like Murray O'Malley, Daniel Pelage, Christy Kind. I mean, like awesome players. And I did not win the combine like Dave. But, it was fun. First off, it was 3 days of pickleball. Even if you don't get drafted, it was dinner and fun people. And, I did know some people from Chicago. And
so it was a great weekend. It was a fun weekend.
It's worth it. I mean, we had dinners and played, and you played the next day. So yeah, you got to meet the owners, and I don't know. It was a really positive. It was a lot of fun. I loved it.
So what would be the tips? I want to go around the room and go back to Rick. What would be your one tip for someone playing the combine? Because I've gotten a lot of questions from these players like, what should I do? How do I prepare for the combine? What is the secret of hopefully getting drafted? What is your one tip, each of you, to a player that is an unknown? Like, what's the best way for them to come and treat the combine? How should they? What should they take away from the combine that they should do in order to be successful?
My perspective is positivity. Like David said, that there isn't always that capability of being in the perfect pod with the perfect partner. But these owners are smart people. They know how to assess talent, and they see what's going on. I think being a well-rounded individual, especially having already gone through a year, these owners want solid people that have great attitudes, no matter the circumstance. That's what they want on their team. So my number one suggestion is be super positive and show you're malleable to any circumstance.
That's great. Positivity would be his word. David, what would your one word be, or couple words for these combine players?
You don't think I can do it in one word?
You might be able to.
No, I would say
That'd be a big word.
super competitive on the court and nice, interesting guy off the court.
That sounds like 10 words. No, you can't do it in one word.
That was short. I thought you were going to say good job.
Super competitive on the court and be nice off the court. Okay, that's good. Yeah. Super competitive, but nice, right? Is what you're saying. All right, good. And what about you, Jen?
I would say don't go there trying to win a spot. Like just have, of course you play your best. If you take, when you do your best, when you're just playing, we all do this because it's so much fun. pickle's fun. Play the ball, play the points, have fun. You have better results when you're actually enjoying yourself. So on and off the court, you just have to be yourself, find people to talk to. And, if you don't get, then you've got new numbers of people to play with or new partners maybe that are in your area. I exchanged so many, I had people ask me to play US Open that year from the Combine. So you're going to make so many great, pickleball connections and friendship connections, and just enjoy it for what it is. And don't always look to the next thing. Just enjoy being in that moment with those people. It was just great. A special weekend.
Yeah. So take it as a special weekend, whether you get drafted or not, it's a win, right? If you enjoy that weekend.
Yeah.
And if you do what David did, which is if you end up being the top 2 men or top 2 women that weekend, you get an automatic guaranteed into the draft. So into being drafted. So that's exciting. And David was able to do that last year. Congratulations to David. And I think Hedberg as well were the top 2. And I think the women was Connie Burnett and
Laura Thornton.
So that's great. So you have a chance. So we're doing it this year again, right? The top 2 men and top 2 women in each combine will automatically be drafted and be required to be drafted by a team. So that's exciting too. But Jen, that's a great tip of just enjoy yourself, right? And, whether or not you get drafted, you had a great weekend and met a lot of friends.
Yeah, it was fun.
That's great. All right. Well, listen, we talked about Combine. I'd love to open it up now. Like, I don't want to focus on just the NPL, but if you had some exciting stuff to talk about for our pickleball friends out there, whether they're NPL followers or not, I'd love to hear from you. So who would like to go and just talk about anything that, that's exciting about pickleball?
I'm just super excited for this, for these 6 new teams. They're going to be announced any day now. I can't wait to introduce 6 new cities. There's nothing better than feeling like you're competing for your city, for your team that chose you. It's very emotional, very spiritual. You want that passion. So 6 new cities coming on board. Let's go. Now we've got the dirty dozen, baby. I don't know where I'm playing next year. You don't know where you're playing next year. And I cannot wait for that draft. Let's go.
By the way, Rick, you were starred in the CBS Sports special, right? 2 hours, a 2-hour special that just happened last month in January, featuring the championship match where Indy beat Austin in the championship match. So that was exciting that in our first year, the National Pickleball League was on CBS Sports Network. And it was the Gamma CBS Sports Network show of the NPL,
awesome.
which is awesome.
That was really cool. And that's really, it's credit to pickleball in general and the NPL specifically. It's just nice to be a part of something that's growing, right? The reason I'm playing pickleball is when I went to sign up for a tennis tournament and they no longer had it. And now it was pickleball, right? I'm like, ooh, pickleball's on the rise. And so it's really exciting to be a part of a sport that's growing and a league that's growing. There's so much excitement about it. And watching myself on CBS was one of the coolest things in my life. I kept hoping the outcome would have been different, but it was exactly the same. But it was surreal. It was unbelievable. I don't even know how to describe it. I'm a loss for words.
Yeah, and it's hard to believe, David. But, for the 17 players on my team, like, I love them. I like them going into the season, but now I love them. And while that was amazing being on CBS, I wish they'd shown a little more of all the players from both teams, Austin and Indy. But this is year 1. We all understand that. And like David said, you can feel this growth before your eyes. Can you imagine what that coverage is going to be like in 2024? I cannot wait.
And Rick, on our next podcast, we will be announcing those 6 teams. So it'll be exciting update on the next 6 teams. We will have some exciting announcement of that, as well as about some of the star players that will be joining our league this year. So with that, Jen, anything else you want to bring up?
Just touch real briefly. I don't want to be so. What Rick just said about love. I mean, honestly, yeah, pickles. I mean, it's amazing. It's been the most fun I've had for but not just our team, but I mean, our team is so close. Like, I love these people. Like, I'm in other tournaments in Florida last month and other places. I have invited people to stay in my home for the Chicago Open already. We text. There's like all the time. Call on the phone. We talked to Vinay on the way down there when we were in Naples. We stayed with, you just, so to be in your 50s, making new friends, not just parents of your children and your neighborhood. It's just looking for like next month traveling and going to, it's just such a great, so thank you Michael and Rick and Beth and Julie and everybody for starting this, because, it's just been awesome. So I really, I'm so glad you guys did this.
I'll finish that with a teaser. Vinay is very special. And on the Indie Drivers, Kim Jade is very special. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, there's teasers. So stay tuned for our next one, where we got some big announcements, not only about the 6 teams, but also the locations where we'll be playing these matches at. We love Chicken and Pickle. They're great. We're going to be playing in some new locations this year, new cities this year, which will be exciting to announce. I said some new players as well, like Rick mentioned, which are exciting names and new players. So we have a lot to announce coming up, as well as a new official ball of the NPL we'll be announcing next time as well. So stay tuned. This is Michael Chen, a co-host of the National Pickleball League podcast, along with my co-host Rick Witsken. Thank you, David George, and Jen Gallwas.
Thank you for tuning in to the official podcast of the National Pickleball League. Please stay tuned, as we will be back soon with our next episode as we go inside the NPL.